Estimado teleinternauta da TV Belas, o nosso muito boa tarde. Depois da pausa para o almoço, estamos de regresso a levar as emoções deste sono da igualdade de género, uma organização do Comitê Olímpico Angolano, uma parceria da Associação Angolana Mulher e Desporto AMUD, que de resto está a decorrer na baixa da cidade capital angolana, a primeira vez que Angola come este fórum há muito já esperado. No período da manhã tivemos três painéis, dos quatro que estavam previstos, e vai-se dar sequência agora aqui no período da tarde. Ao contrário daquilo que estava agendado, vamos ter já a seguir a premiação do senhor Caixo Lecarrela, ele que havia de falar somente às 4 da tarde, mas por razões de agenda. É professor e tem aulas a dar neste período que estava marcado, e também há de fazê-lo via virtual, via online. Por essa razão vai entrar agora, sob formas a que possamos depois voltar para o tema predefinido para este início de transmissões no período da tarde. É a TV Belas a levar as emoções da primeira edição em Angola do Fórum de Igualdade de Género, numa realização do Comitê Olímpico Angolano com a parceria da Associação Angolana a Mulher e o Desporto. A vossa especial atenção, dentro de instantes vai começar a preleção aqui no período da tarde. Até já.
I hope you enjoyed the lunch. It's echoing. I hope you enjoyed the lunch, and what a scrumptious meal it was indeed. You know, the Ugandan, the Angolan hospitality just don't stop. Thank you, Angola. We have a slight, change on our program. We are going to shift session 4 to session 6. And we bring session 6 forward to session 4. Just for the reason that Kagisho, the presenter, is not available later this afternoon. He's available now because he needs to do a lecture at the university. So with your permission, we are going to start with session 6, and I would like to, Kagisho will do the presentation, and then we will have a panel discussion. And the panel, Wandi will facilitate it for us, And our panelists are Dr. Leboang Komari from Lesotho, Mr. Boniface Kambi, the Secretary General for Zambia, and, sorry? You just? And then we have Merit from Zimbabwe, who will stand in for Gabriel. So the moment when we are done with Kagishu, we will then start with our panel discussion. Good afternoon, Kagishu. Hello. Wonderful, wonderful to have you with us online. I've already done the welcome, Kagishu. I will appreciate, if you can start with your presentation. We will put it on the screen, and then you can start with an introduction of yourself, and then with a presentation. Yes. We're going to share it on, you can also share it. Can you share the host, can you give him the rights to share his presentation? Okay, he's going to share the screen with you, Kagishu, and then we will be good to go. Exactly. Okay, Kagishu, we can go. You can proceed. We can see your slide, we just need to get it bigger. Kagishu, can you do it? Can you do the slides bigger on your side? Okay, there we go. There we go, Kagishu. You can proceed. Yes, Kagishu, you can continue.
leading towards the new quadrennial period. Just a bit of background before I get into the gist of the presentation. I think history has proven that, and research, it has proven that having gender diverse leadership at board and senior management level in any organization offers performance benefits. Although this is the case, women remain underrepresented on most sporting boards at international and national levels. This is despite the adoption of various declarations and strategies in previous decades aimed at addressing the gender inequality issue. So as it has been said, there's a business case currently right now on the value of gender equality at leadership level. But that being said, the gender inequality issue still remains a huge challenge across various sectors. The International Olympic Committee has made great progress in promoting gender equality in terms of balancing the total number of athletes participating at the Paris Games. For the first time at the Paris Games, we saw a gender-balanced participation from an athletic perspective. In terms of balancing the total number of athletes that participated at the Paris Games, and more recently, appointing more women to leadership roles within IOC structures. And here, I think we really need to celebrate IOC taking a leadership in terms of showing the way in driving gender equality, both from a gaming perspective and also leadership within its own structures. IOC is leading the way and showing us this is how it should be done. However, there are still many challenges that need to be addressed, and the pace of progress and transformation is slow. This is where our biggest challenge is. There is progress, but that progress is slow. To address these challenges, the IOC launched the IOC Gender Equality Review Project in 2017 with a mandate to push gender equality globally with action-oriented recommendations for change. Subsequently, in 2021, IOC developed and published the Gender Equality and Inclusion Objectives to guide the Olympic movement transformation drive or focus. And this is very much important. IOC has been very deliberate and intentional around driving the gender equality transformation drive. Many instruments have been published to assist the member organizations in terms of driving transformation at the local level. So we have been led from that perspective. If we bring it home, although Africa has progressed in promoting diversity in organizational structures, especially Olympic committees, the reality is that progress has been very slow in transforming and effecting gender equality. And this is mainly a general statement. There are a few Olympic committees that are shooting the lights, that are showing the way. And it's simply because they have been intentional about how to achieve the transformation that we want to see. Although many Olympic committees have declared their support for gender equality and developed strategic gender equality plans, the reality is that representation of women at various leadership levels remain low or unequal, with the following challenges continually being experienced. And I think this is the main challenge that we are sitting with. One, lack of adequate women candidatures during the election period. In the previous quadrennial, there are NOCs and countries that struggled getting women to raise up their hands and to register their candidatures for elections. And this is one of the main problems. We can set quotas from 30% to 50%, but if we don't have women candidatures during the election period, the quotas is defeated. So we really need more women candidatures to be registered during the electioneering period. Problem number 2 or challenge number 2, onboarding of gender unequal leadership structures. There are sporting organizations that even though there's a quota that has been set, they continue to onboard gender unequal leadership structures. And this needs to be corrected. Problem area number 3, lack of adequate board-ready women with leadership substance. So we don't really have a pool, a wide pool of women that are board-ready with leadership substance. And in this case, when we don't have such a pool, gender equality and equity ends up being a compliance matter rather than a very important organizational strategic matter. So this is one of the problems that we continue to experience. A long-standing challenge for sporting organizations is identifying and recruiting women who are interested in taking up governing or leadership roles. In short, sport has a pipeline problem when it comes to female talent. As I've said earlier, we don't have a wide pool of women with leadership substance that are board ready. And that's the problem that we are dealing with. Come the election time, come the period that we are in, many organizations are scraping for numbers. It becomes a numbers game to meet the requirements just to comply, simply because we don't have a wide pool of women that can take up roles and occupy the space of board, governing boards. And that's our problem that we are sitting with. At the end of this presentation, when the panel engages, I guess the critical question would be, how do we address the problems and the challenges that this presentation is raising together with the members that are in this forum? Moving along to the next slide, the role of NOCs. Due to the problem and challenges that sport continue to experience in relation to representation of women at various leadership levels, the role and responsibility of NOCs or national federations is of utmost importance. We can never remove the NOCs and national federations. It's the role, the critical role that they need to play. The role and the responsibility of NOCs or national federations and leaders are to, one, create a conducive and enabling environment. If we want to achieve gender equality and equity in the next quadrennial, NOCs, NFs, leaders, we need to create a conducive and enabling environment. There's a reason why that bullet point has been put as number 1 bullet point, because without leaders and organizations creating a conducive and enabling environment, the mission of gender equality and equity is defeated. Second bullet point, develop an empowered women leadership pipeline. It's not only about creating the pipeline or a pool, but it's about developing an empowered women leaders. Bullet point number 3, create opportunities for growth and development. We can develop women, but if we don't create opportunities for growth and further development, the mission is defeated. I recently had an opportunity of working with one of the NOCs through the program called Young Women Leaders, Sports Leaders. And one of the realization that and lessons learned was that most of the federations, from a leader's perspective, and in bracket, male leaders, they were not willing to open the space to create opportunities for these young girls to come inside and learn and shadow and see what happens at board level or at executive level. And that's why it's very important that we must create opportunities for women to grow and develop. There's no place where any individual can develop better other than being in the cold face of where action takes place. And these are some of the things that I'm advocating for. Bullet point number 4, strengthen portrayal and promotion of women. We continue not to promote women and strengthen portrayal of women. And this is one area that I hope the forum will debate and discuss about in terms of how can we improve in this area. Bullet point number 5, encourage and motivate women to participate in election. It's good to create a conducive and enabling environment, but if we don't mobilize women to register their candidacy and to participate, again, the mission is defeated. And the most important bullet point, we cannot fill up a pipeline that loses talent. We need to make efforts as NOCs, as NFs, as leaders to retain women in the system. And this can only be achieved through concerted and deliberate efforts. And this, in summary, it's the role of our NOCs, NFs led by our leaders in terms of how are we going to achieve, the mission that we are on currently right now. And these are the points that I'm advocating for and I'm putting forward to the leaders to deliberate on, and I hope the panel will interrogate some of the points that I'm raising in this presentation. And the next part of my presentation is really covering on electioneering for candidates. Every 4 years, we go through electioneering cycle, and some, women might want to participate and not knowing the ABC of electioneering. And I think it's very much important that we need to educate potential candidates on how does this cycle, this process works, and how are the key things that, candidates and potential future board leaders needs to undertake. Elections can be lost through basic and simple mistakes. And I hope that this presentation will arouse some thinkings from the leaders in terms of how can they take this process forward and ensure that when women are ready and they want to participate, they exactly know the A to Z of electioneering. Electioneering is a process of campaigning or promoting oneself for a particular position within sporting organizations and governing bodies. And this can include seeking election positions such as president, chairman, secretary, treasurer, and et cetera, and just being an ordinary board member as well. Overall, electioneering in sport is a strategic and competitive process aimed at persuading voters to support a particular candidate for a leadership position within the sporting community. It plays a significant role in shaping the direction and governance of sporting organizations at various levels. I think I recently went through, a few elections with a few organizations recently. I think all of us, we just recently saw a very competitive electioneering process, in America unfolding, where there was a very fierce, electioneering, campaigning, and all of those. And it was a good learning, process. Couple of things that we can take away from what happened. up until the final day, nobody knew who was going to win the elections. And that's why the statement says it's a strategic and competitive process. And even in sport, we can never underestimate the importance of the importance from a strategic perspective of the election process and its competitive nature. It's very much important that our women potential candidates, they need to know that this process is competitive. It's not just a pass through, highway and then you land on the board. It's a very competitive process. From an electioneering process, there's quite a few activities that women needs to be educated about. Those that would enter the process for the first time. The activities may include registering your candidature or your interest, developing a profile, and developing a manifesto that you would use to really sell yourself as a candidate and sell what are you standing for, basically. What are you bringing? What do you intend to bring to the board? What are you promising, your constituents, your members? Electioneering entails campaigning, aggressively so that you can ensure that you get the votes and the buy-in. The fourth point, which is very much important, engaging in networking, engaging with constituencies, potential voters and the likes. It's about communicating. As I said, once ever you have developed the manifesto, it must be communicated. People must know who are you, what are you offering and the likes. But the most important one, point number 6, compliance. We can do all of the above activities. But if we don't comply with any sporting organization's electioneering process and requirements, we can lose, easily our participation in the process. I recently had a case where one of the local leaders who was the current incumbent president, thought that his own federation had nominated him, only to be amazed after the closing date, after the registration process, candidacy registration process has closed, that his own federation had never actually nominated him. And that's how he lost the presidency position. So compliance is very much important, ensuring that you follow the rules and the regulations of the organization from an election perspective. So these are some of the activities. And I'm just going to raise quite a few points in terms of, candidatures or candidates. What do they need to look at and to consider? I normally say elections or the electioneering process, it's divided into 3 stages: the pre-election stage, the during election stage, and then the post election stage. And I'm going to share with you, mainly focusing on the pre-election stage, and to an extent the during election stage, what they should be doing, basically, when they participate in this process. From a pre-election perspective, our candidates, they need to consider, their passion for sport leadership, abilities, relevant experience, expertise. Are they available to serve on the board? Because serving on the board can be consuming, and you need dedication and commitment. Alignment with the organizational values and mission. Is there alignment between personal values and organizational values? You need to consider those before you register your candidacy. assess your skill set, your qualifications, your skills, your experience to determine if you are prepared to serve effectively as a board member. What value are you bringing or can you bring to the board? These are some of the things that you need to do before you even package your own profile and manifesto. You need to gain a clear, as a candidate, you need to gain a clear understanding of the roles, the responsibilities and expectations associated with serving as a board member in sport organization. Is there an alignment between your thinking and the roles, responsibilities, and expectations? Very much important. These are some of the things that you need to consider before you decide to register your candidature. And then still with pre-election, candidates should familiarize themselves with organizations, bylaws, constitution, election procedures governing the nomination and election of board members. This is a very critical point, and a point that can either, make candidates to lose or to succeed in the electioneering process. So very much important familiarization with bylaws, constitution, and election processes and procedures. Very much important. The next bullet point, understand key dates, deadlines, eligibility criteria, nomination procedures, voting methods, and any other rules or regulations related to electioneering process. The next one, candidates should review the organization's mission, vision, strategic objectives, and governance structures to understand how the board functions, its role in advancing the organizational role. So you don't just enter, your candidature, register it. Where do you see yourself within this organization? And what value do you believe you can add to the organization? You need, as a candidate, you need to engage with organization members, stakeholders, and fellow candidates to understand their perspectives, concerns, and priorities. You need to be informed. You need to be empowered and strengthened with key information to enable you and give you a competitive edge. Most important, elections, the electioneering process, one of the key determinants of success, it's relationships. You need to build relationships with other members to gain their trust and support for your candidacy. If you don't forge relationships, the chances of any candidate succeeding are very slim, very low. So relationships are a key competitive edge in terms of this process. Still on pre-electioneering, candidates should develop a compelling profile and manifesto. I cannot overemphasize this. People need to know, who are you? What are you offering? What are you bringing to the table? And what's your vision? When you get into the governing board, where do you see, this organization and your contributions? Very much important. The next bullet point, any candidate needs to seek and secure nomination for a board role from eligible members who support your candidacy. Very much important. You cannot seek and secure nomination from any individual or any organization. You need to ensure that whoever you seek and secure nomination from, they are eligible to can nominate and support, your candidature. Very important. If we get it wrong, you are out of the race, basically. And then the next point, that's bullet point, any candidate needs to follow the nomination procedures outlined in the organization's bylaws, including submitting the required documentation, endorsements, statements of candidacy within specified deadlines. Deadlines in the electioneering process, very much key and critical. If a candidate misses deadlines, again, out of the race. This is the most interesting slide for me. that at local level, we tend to underestimate. Like I made reference to the American electioneering that happened. We saw a very fierce competitive campaigning process. And this is something or an area that is very much important, but we tend to undermine it within the sporting fraternity. Candidates should create campaign materials, including candidate statements, biographies, videos, and other promotional materials to communicate their messages effectively to voters. Candidates should participate in organized forums, debates, or informational sessions to introduce themselves to members, present their profiles and manifesto, and address questions or concerns. Candidates should use the opportunities to engage with voters, demonstrate their leadership qualities, and differentiate themselves from other candidates, set them apart. Conduct their campaign with integrity. Conduct their campaign with integrity, honesty, and professionalism. There's one thing that IOC preaches, it's ethical leadership. So we can never move away from being ethical in how we campaign. Adhering to the rules and guidelines for electioneering campaign, very much important. And most important, candidates should avoid negative campaigning or disparaging remarks about opponents and focus on promoting their qualifications and ideas for the organization's future. Very much important. Focus on yourself, on your offering, and not focusing on discrediting other candidates and the likes. So this is very much important. Going into the next slide. Before I conclude on the electioneering process, one of the points that I want to raise is that electioneering continues even during the elective conference. For candidates, you can never stop talking to potential voters during the conference within the rules of the game, still ensuring that you've got the buy-in, of your voters coming the voting time, and you need to continue engaging with them, talking with them, communicating with them, even post the electioneering or the election process. You need to express gratitude after. You need, whether you win or not, you need to continue serving from the position that you are, from the space that you are, really continuing to promote your brand, because all the candidates are brands and people vote and buy brands. So it's very much important that whether one succeeds in attaining a position on the board or not, but to continue, strengthening their brands, because 4-year cycles, they come and they go very quickly. And if any candidate doesn't succeed, the focus should be on continuing to strengthen their brands, their profiles, so that should an opportunity become available, they are ready to raise up their hands and participate going forward. Leading to the panel, I want to leave, in conclusion, I would want to leave this forum with a statement that says, for gender equality and equity transformation to be realized, NOX, National Federation leaders will have to be deliberate and intentional in creating a conducive, enabling, and empowering environment for women to rise and take up space. And this is a statement that I'm challenging participants, leaders, to think about, to say, how do we become deliberate and intentional in creating a conducive, enabling, empowering environment? Everybody tends to talk about the system. The people are the system. We create the sporting system. We lead and manage this system. It's up to us as sporting leaders to decide, how do we change the status quo? How do we become serious about gender equality and equity transformation? And whatever decisions that are taken from this forum, they need to filter down. They need to go down back to countries, to federations, because that's the bedrock of our sporting system. And on those few words, leaders, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for affording me the opportunity to deliver this short presentation, thought-provoking to the leaders of the Olympic movement, to say, how do we change the situation? How do we go into the next quadrennial being deliberate and intentional? And on that note, I thank you.
Kagisho, thank you so much for a very, very comprehensive explanation on the role of women. And I think, this has been addressed by Wandile this earlier today and through several of the presentations. Kagisho, are you going to stay on for a while, or is it not possible?
Joan, I'm going to stand to stay online for a while before I leave in the next 30 minutes or so.
Brilliant.
Our presenters to take in their positions, and I'll give over to the facilitator. The facilitator is Wandile Simelani, First Vice President of SASCOC. Kagisho, she did a very good governance session earlier today. So I'm going to give over to Wandi. Merit, Bonnie, and Dr. Kumari, can you please join us?
Thanks, Joan. Kagisho, can we just get the control back on the platform?
Caros participantes, como se deram conta, esta apresentação, por ter sido online, não foi possível fazer a tradução em direto. Então, a nossa organização, a MUD, a Comissão do Comitê Olímpico, vai recuperar do secretariado a apresentação em inglês e vai ficar com a responsabilidade de traduzir para a língua portuguesa e enviar a todas as colegas participantes das diferentes províncias para vocês poderem voltar a ler e perceber melhor tudo o que foi aqui dito. Tá? Obrigado.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Another interactive session. We're going to have a nice panel discussion around the presentation we've received around election preparedness. I think it will be fair to ask all panelists for 2 minutes just to give us in brief what you think a conducive, enabling and empowering environment actually looks like. Before we start talking about how do we build it, what does it actually look like? If you have to say, in my NOC, it is now an enabling and empowering and conducive environment, what to you would it look like?
Thank you. I'll start because the microphone was nearer to me. All right. In a brief, I think a conducive environment and an enabling environment would be an environment that speaks to the presentation that you gave earlier, where the statutes, the policies, and the requirements are very clear and deliberate to speak to women participating or getting themselves involved in the election. I also want to believe that an enabling environment would be an environment where sport is safe for women to come in and participate without fear of any harassment, of any abuse and the likes. I'll leave my colleagues to also input. Thank you.
Before you leave your colleagues, just introduce yourself quickly.
Oh,
sorry.
my name is Merit Munzwembiri. I am the chairperson for the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee Gender Equality, Inclusivity and Diversity Commission. Thank you.
Welcome, Merit, and thank you for your views. I see we're playing ladies first here, Bonnie.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to say my voice. I'm Lebohang Khumari, Director for the Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion from Lesotho. I think she's already said what I was going to talk about, that what you presented this morning really gave us a platform or a foundation showing us exactly how to, create a conducive environment for our women. Because if we have the laws in place, then all the national federations, because at the moment the national federations are very resistant to change. But if we have the laws in place, then they'll have to play by the book. So that is one. And the fact that equity, we really bring equity in play, and not just talk about equality, because equality and equity, as you know, they mean different things. You can tell people that they have the same opportunities, but I mean, some people have been having the same opportunities. I mean, they've been having those opportunities over a long time. So we really need to have equity entrenched in our policies. Another, I think the last point I'll talk about is being intentional in the training or empowering these ladies to build their confidence, because some people could have skills that would be valuable in the executive committees, but if they don't have the confidence, that they will not put their candidature in forward for them to be considered. So we need to empower our ladies, very aggressively to build that confidence.
Thanks, Doc. Boniface?
My name is Boniface Kambikambi, Secretary General for National Olympic Committee, Zambia. Lwandile, the good thing about speaking last is that you just add on. I think we cannot necessarily recreate what is available, particularly from your presentation earlier in the morning. But I must say that, just as to add on what my colleagues have said here, having tools that you use, policies and statutes and so on, bylaws, to support the electioning process, I think is key for me as well, because they defines how you will enter elections and how you will treat each candidate. And I think what will be key also for a conducive environment is to ensure that it's a place that has been created. I think Maria talked about safeguard. It's a place that has been created free of unnecessary friction that divides the gender, where men don't think that it's their space. And so create one space that everybody feels comfortable to be at, which includes when do you do the elections, what modality do you use, are you cognizant of time, are you cognizant of a period in the year, and so on. Should women also be given the same equal time in terms of managing their time, and not take, for example, for lack of an example, you want to do your elections on a difficult timing, maybe in the evening, or that's the only time you do campaigning, and will women be able to afford to have that time, and so on. So creating these opportunities for them as well, that is across the board, I think will be part of, in addition to what my colleagues have said, what might be a conducive environment. Thanks.
Thanks, Boniface. Merit, I'd like to ask you, how do we ensure it's not a numbers game?
Thank you very much, Lwandile. That's, I think, the biggest task that gender commissions should try to correct, because we need to look at the skill set. Like Kakiso said, it's important to have the skill set. And to get this skill set, I think training is what is important. But the training doesn't start on the eve of elections. This training has to be consistent and very periodic and very intentional in terms of the topics that you're focused on, in terms of even preparing a wholesome. They said, he said, a woman of boardroom substance. It's one message, one word that I picked from there. So you need to train the people to get the substance that fits, or that can withstand, or that can hold the fort within a boardroom. So I want to believe that training is critical, and training also that includes speaking to confidence of women, because too often you realize women even fear to go into the fora to contest. So it starts with maybe training and giving them that confidence and building on the skill set and doing so consistently every other time. Thank you.
I think everybody has touched in their first round on the issue of training and development. And if I can bring Kagiso back in here and ask him, with that in mind, how do we ensure that we do not lock women into a perpetual state of development? Kagisha, did you hear the question?
Is it on there? Is our mic on?
Kagisha, we can't hear you if you can hear us.
Okay, microphone is on there. Or maybe he's walked away.
No, he unmuted, so he is here. Okay, we'll wait to see if we can get the sound back, but it's an important question that hopefully he can answer to us, because if he can give us the answer, we then ask you, Doc, how then do we create these board-ready women? How do we start? Outside of training, and what qualities do we need to be training these women on for us to be able to say, no, they are board-ready now? Oh. Okay, we'll try get your sound back, Kagiso, and then we'll continue for now if you just then recall the question. Doc?
I don't know if I got your question correctly, but did you say outside training? Because if we want to get these ladies ready, we have to make sure that they have train them in self-imagery, so that they, like I said, probably I'm repeating myself, if they know themselves, then they're able to be, they're empowered enough to be able to stand for elections. That's one. Another thing, I have to think about it. Yeah.
All right. Bonnie, I think I can also extend the question to you and ask you that within the context, I mean, you're an SG at an NOC, within the context of election rules, how do we actually do succession planning without breaching the dictates of democracy and election rules, but we ensure that we are encouraging succession planning?
Yeah, thank you, Arundel. I want to respond to that, touch a little bit on what you're saying, and also on Mariette. In talking about, I think Kagisho presented three challenges, and I think I need to add a fourth there, which probably gives us some solution. And that is, we have a lack of adequate and available mentors, either men and women, to mentor all the women that we want to take leader position. Players, when they stop playing, women in leadership, I actually have one or two people that they are holding hand. It speaks to the areas of the outside training, because they aspire more role models, but how many role models actually turn around and say, look, I want to grab and walk with you up? And I think we need to have a deliberate and intentional move. And that will speak to succession planning as well, because you need to have the bodies available for you to create a plan for succession. And if the plan, according to the presentation and your presentation in the morning, there's a lack of growth in terms of women coming to a leadership position from national federations, from clubs, because after they are at the club, they drop off. Who's taking them along through the journey without creating the professional training, so to speak? Because that's where it needs to start. And I think it's being intentional from NOC perspective, being intentional with national federations, and creating the plans and the policies that you alluded to. As an example, we might say succession plan, but what should the succession plan look like in that context? Should it be one that is applicable to corporate entities, or diluted to a situation where it treats it from a sports perspective? Because we see a number of dropouts for girls. Once they're doing well and then they drop out for a reason or another and so on. How do we hold on to them towards the leadership? Because even the current leaders that we have in sport might have come from a different environment altogether, but they still have an interest. How do we retain that interest? And I think it speaks to the policy, it speaks to training outside and so on. And I think we need to address that as a fourth challenge. Do we have adequate mentors, either men or women, to handhold the ladies that we want to take up a leadership position? In 2017, if you allow me, in 2018, I think when I was running the commission, we had a program where we identified 2 women in each federation and brought them to a forum And I think we invited some people from the region as well, and attached them to mentors for the year, hoping that their mindset will begin for them to aspire to influential position in the federations. And sadly, I mean, today they are still very active, but none of them are really aspiring to influential position. So we need to have mentors to keep pushing that agenda. It's not going to happen overnight. It will take a bit of time.
It's true. Kagisho, 5 minutes. Kagisho, are you on? Can we hear you? Just try. Ah, there we go. Yes, we can hear you now.
Readiness and beyond. For me, there's a couple of things that are very much important. We need to ensure that if we talk of women with substance, leadership substance, it's women that are very knowledgeable about, you know, the Olympic movement and, you know, its agenda, its statutes, its governance, and all of those. For me, these are women that are informed. These are women that are confident, you know, beyond the training, ready to occupy space and lead. Whilst being mentored and being coached, continue to be mentored and to be coached. Pardon me. And for me, one of the things that within the sporting fraternity, and I want to link this to succession planning, that we are not currently practicing, and it's already a practice within the corporate industry. It's the whole methodology of sponsorship, leadership sponsorship within the sporting industry. One of the ways of us advancing women is to sponsor women. And by sponsorship, meaning leaders that are prepared to take, you know, potential women leaders under their arm, mentor them, coach them, and advocate for them. Sponsorship is about advocacy. It's very difficult to break, you know, the windows and to break the doors into the boardrooms. But if women have got sponsors that would advocate on their behalf and develop them further or coach, because you can be trained, but it doesn't mean that you now have got the grasp of the 8BC of how to maneuver boardroom dynamics and all of those. How to play this game of, you know, electioneering and all of those. But if we have leaders that can really sponsor potential women leaders, I believe we can see us making a breakthrough and developing that pipeline that I'm talking about. And lastly, one point that I want to raise, and I'm linking it to what I believe Boniface raised, that we need to create a pathway in sport from a leadership perspective. It's interesting that we've got pathways from an athletic and coaching perspective, but we don't have leadership pathways in sport, you know, in general, but mainly especially for women. And as he alluded earlier on, it starts at club level, at local level, association level, leading to national federation, leading to NOX, you know. And as I said, the last point, how do we retain those that we have at board level, at executive level, so that we don't lose them in the system? So for me, this is how I see it working out in terms of, getting women both ready and beyond, training and being ready. That's how I see this, being worked out.
Thank you very much. We're naturally very strategy. And in lessons, join us in 5 minutes. I want to understand how to retain message and how I see the progress of this. I think the most important thing is to care. Very strong thanks for this. And also,
Yeah.
because we can have babies for or say for us to be able to retain women, we can have very strong concept. It's not but we can have concept. Because some things they need is more supposed to be quite key for freedom. They follow because of the character. Well, you see the practices that they encounter, the federations, so they need to sport also okay. So my next helps those and you're showing them all different things. First, I get those skills that were people hearing women in the volleyball and they then we do the fact. This is one way. Besides, show that some we show that we monitor this is what in the energy. When challenges that they are facing, as the gender, you see challenges that they are facing, and then address those challenges so that we can intend this. I think this is how we can.
Think that one thing we wanted to keep very engaged.
Is happening, always make them available to do initiatives and encourage the outcomes of those initiatives with them. So that at every time they know they have something to contribute. They must make them feel relevant, okay, which is I think we'll support. And part of that in terms of IOC as well as the Commonwealth Games and so on. I know there are leadership courses and so on, but there are so very few. You can't use all of them. So perhaps use the same model and do something locally from a sports perspective that will get them more women involved for both the learners as well as the mentors, so the mentee and the mental environment, because I think we need to increase that collaboration, make it more portrayable, so that there are more conversations about leadership with the men, so that even the younger women will begin to hear these things and begin to aspire to say, oh, I'm going to go up. And if they do that, then use the women that are currently there to become mentors for others. That way they're getting more engaged, even as they're thinking of stepping down at some point. They step down after carrying a group of other young women with them. And I think that would be important to do that, other than just thinking about election and numbers.
Thank you, Boniface. Merit.
Thank you. I think for me, really, it's adding to what my colleagues have just said. It's increasing or improving on the portrayal of women. I want to believe that if we celebrate our women, the ones that are already in the system more, celebrate them, it will inspire the next generation. But to retain them, I want to believe that we need to consistently coach these women, give them capacity building initiatives that they can take up to to consistently improve. You asked a question, Randile, to say, so must it be perpetual development for women? I believe it should be, because this is a field where women are trying to bring in the equity aspect. So it should be perpetual indeed. And also for the women that are already in the system to be role models. When a woman goes up, they should be able to send the ladder down or the elevator down to get the next women up. So coaching and mentorship are obviously very important aspects to it, but the standing and the positioning, the attitude of a woman who is already in power right now must inspire the next generation.
No, indeed. Kagisho, if you're still with us, last 30 seconds before I summarize and close, if you have any words on what my colleagues here have said.
Point number two, my experience, working with different NOCs to address, the gender issue has led me to realize that the current leaders, especially male leaders, are not yet ready, to intentionally and deliberately accept the change of status quo and to embrace it. We need to educate leaders in terms of gender equality in the next quadrennial period. More needs to be done in training leaders, especially male leaders, on gender equality. This is, I don't know why male leaders are still threatened by gender equality, but experience and working in the field has showed me that some of the leaders are still threatened by the whole issue around, addressing gender equality. So for me, it needs to be one of the key focus area getting into the next quadrennial phase. Thank you.
Sorry.
What we have heard here today is that women need to get and make full optimal use of training programs in order to improve our positions, in order to retain and get some confidence to contest for these positions. And when we are there, we need to go through some developmental and mentoring phases to ensure that we stay there. And I think the element you added is with regards to the IOC programs. I'm a product of an IOC program. I was a young participant many years ago, and 10 years after that I was elected as the vice president of my NOC. And it was through programs like that where you can get consistent assistance. The MIMOS project that many have noted as well. So I think we definitely have tried to answer and address some of the problems that have been raised here on how we can ensure that women are board ready, how we can ensure that we retain them in the system, and how we can ensure that they are confident and ready to go and assume and campaign in a healthy and conducive environment and move the Olympic committees forward. So thank you for your time, and thank you to our panelists.
Caros palestrantes, muito obrigado pela vossa brilhante apresentação. Dando continuidade aos nossos trabalhos, o próximo tema, também com algum interesse, vamos falar um bocado o papel da Comissão para a Igualdade do Género. Vamos falar um bocado da salvaguarda do papel dessa comissão. Para esse tema, convidamos a senhora Malebo Raditladi para a apresentação. Miss Malebo, please. Welcome. You have the floor. It's good or not? The name? Ah. Every contact, please. You can adjust your side, maybe.
Okay.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mais uma vez, boa tarde aos teleinternautas da TV Belas. Continuamos a fazer a cobertura do Fórum de Igualdade do Género, um evento que está a ser organizado pelo Acnoa, que é a Associação dos Comitês Nacionais Olímpicos Africanos, em parceria com o COA, Comitê Olímpico Angolano. Tivemos agora há bem pouco tempo, terminou há bem pouco tempo o painel que teve também uma mesa redonda. E vamos entrar agora para um outro, que é o penúltimo tema dessa discussão do fórum que está a acontecer. Que terá como tema como podem as comissões da igualdade de género maximizar e alavancar oportunidades de género. Este tema terá dois preletores. Será primeiro a senhora Nozipo Japta e também depois o senhor Nils Pedro. Nós vamos pedir que os nossos internautas continuem ligados à TV Belas e no acompanhamento deste Fórum de Igualdade do Género. Até lá, boa continuação.
So all what we talk about is the safeguarding of all in sport. And then gender is always been a problem. And gender equality or gender mainstreaming has always been a problem, and that is where we find that it's hindering the development of sport. And we are in collaboration with all those logos that you see. That's our logo. There's the Norwegians, there's the African Union Sports Council, there's RADO, and because of the help that we get from the Olympic Solidarity, we always carry that because we are here because of that support from the Solidarity. And I just want us to give them a round of applause, because if they are not supporting us, then we will not be able to have all these gatherings. Yes. Now I want to just say, I will make it quick. I've made the slides to be longer. That will be shared with you, but I will try to make it as quick as possible because we have a limited time. I want you to always put yourself in someone else's shoes. Why I'm saying that is because, or before I continue, I just want to say thank you to Joan and the team for the Anoka Zone 6 for giving that support to Anna this morning. And may her sister soul rest in eternal peace, and the family be comforted. It is important to look after the welfare of our volunteers, our staff, and that's all what matters. That care, she will always remember. The support that you gave her this morning, she will always remember. And all what we need is to make sure that our volunteers and staff in our sports system feel loved and be comforted. So let's change the status quo, like Kahisho just said. Understanding the environment of sport. We require validated support in order to be able to argue everything that we do. So that is why in Anoka Zone 6 we have made all those research reports that I'm sure you have already received them. There was a research that was made in Zambia, the prevalence study that was made in Zambia, which is what we are using around the world as we go around and sharing what Africa does. So we don't want to always carry one. We are encouraging each and every country to make sure that they have that research, so that because whatever you validate in your country, you can be able to use that so that people can be able to believe on what you are saying. So you need to have those to be able to cover and do everything. So that was the statistics or the results that we got from Zambia that made a wake-up call to say that there's a problem in the gender issues in our region. And by Zambia acquiring that means there was a problem. And then I liked it when somebody was saying, we're having a problem now with the girl child and speaking on behalf of the girl child. But what we always say is make sure that you don't leave the boy child behind, like what Mr. Kambi was saying, because we don't want in years to come, in the next generation when we are no longer there, for them now to be fighting and the table standing around and now fighting for the boy child. And the whole reason why we are saying carry them along, because as the system, in the African system where we have a brother and a sister at home. So let's carry that so that they know that they have to support their sisters, they have to support their brothers, and even when they go and marry each other beyond that, they will still carry that. So let's not make that division and make sure that, because this study showed us that the boy child is in trouble just as you look at the statistics. And then the prevalence study, you can go online and you'll be able to see that. And then those are the statistics for as to who are the perpetrators. We will always say the coaches and everybody and mention everyone, but we find that as we go along, as we go and be part of the games, we find that all of us are perpetrators. The coaches, the administrators, you name it, we are all perpetrators in whichever way. And also everyone around an athlete. That's why we are making sure that we address everyone and an entourage around an athlete to ensure that we carry them along and we are aware of or they are aware of what they are doing. We also the safe inclusive sport testing studies. I mentioned of the one for Zambia, and as we were doing the inclusive sports conference with the paras in Gaborone, where all of the NOCs and the NSCs were there, there's another report that was released, and I'm definitely make sure that we get that to Joan to be able to share that with you, as it will help you to ensure that we cover that. Our approach is very simple. We collaborate with all. You cannot do it alone. And by using different support systems, like I've said, it helps us to make sure that we cover everything that we have ever wanted to cover with regards to the safeguarding of all in sport. And our holistic approach has spoken for us, because the world was surprised to say, how do you collaborate? How do you win? When they see us with all those logos that I had mentioned there. And that alone won the heart of the IOC, and that's why we were given picked as the guinea pig of the safe inclusive sport hub that will be coming. And that is because of that collaboration. So the same way as we are preaching as we go around, collaborate, like Lwandile was saying, collaborate, get everybody who speaks sport to be on your in your system, so that you are able to make sure that you are supported. And those are the prevalence studies that I've said we have done in the southern region, and then that can be shared. And then on the key priorities, strategic area, equity and inclusion, we don't leave anyone. We are covering everyone. The gender inclusive policies have proven to work in building more equitable platforms. So we are sure that in the region we have made a significant stride towards attaining the attainment of inspiration of increasing participation by women and girls in sport in the level of 40% by 2028. So our ambitious goal has challenged the region to revise the strategy aim to act in building blocks to ultimately have to win that target. Now coming to the topic, the role of Gender Equality Commission. We are talking of country policies, the implementation of that policy and the challenges that we encounter and the best practices that we are looking at. And with regards to what is a policy outlines an organization's principles and approach to guide the operations and behavior of the organization. So what we have noted is that, yes, if the region from Ms. Hazel and the team, if they want us to do those policies, we tick the box and do the policies, and then we shelve them. Those policies are never implemented. When we go around to find out what we have done, how much we have achieved, we find that those policies are still shelved. We are not implementing the policies, and that's where we go wrong. And without those policies, we won't be able to reach what we want to achieve. The policy provides a chance to understand and socialize the goal of an organization and how to achieve organizational objectives. So, in a way, we have to ensure that everything that we try to do, we make sure that we do that wholeheartedly with everything. And then there comes a benchmarking. We like benchmarking as sports people. I don't know if the other institutions they do, but we like benchmarking. But when you ask somebody, after benchmarking, what are you bringing? We are going to benchmark. I don't know whether we go, and because of the trip, we will be going from one country to other doing the benchmarking. But what exactly are we bringing? What shows that that benchmarking was worth spending the government money or the NOC money to go and benchmark and bring what? Where is the proof that the benchmarking bear fruit? So when we go and benchmark, let's make sure that we go and benchmark and align ourselves. Don't do the photocopy. There's no copy and paste. Even in our own countries, we have different cultures, we have different beliefs within our own national, like we are in Angola. I'm sure all the provinces have different cultures. So whatever is put in there, whatever happens in the capital city, is not automatically proof that it will be possible in another province. So we have to all the time take into consideration the cultural aspect and the belief system and the understanding of those people that we put in those committees or in the commissions. Are they empowered, like what we have been saying? Are they, their education level competent enough to be able to be in those positions? So let's try to protect those that we put in those positions. I'll keep on trying to jump. You will read as we go along. And I've just put in there the do's and don'ts on what we believe can assist in ensuring that the commissions and the people that we put together for the gender qualities are the right people, or the things that we think of the do's and don'ts of what the gender equality with regard to safeguarding of all in sport will mean. So those are the do's and don'ts, and I believe that with that it should be noted that because of specific policies policies are required to address the specific challenges. So in different situations, environment, geographical locations, and then hence the copying and pasting that I've been talking about, it's totally a non-starter on the different entities may result in different results that we are trying to come up with. The policy approval review, I think that one I've covered for the policies such as the gender equality to be successful. We need to be able to understand as board members, as the commissions, what exactly are we putting ourselves in. So if the leadership doesn't understand the policy, there's no way that any person below you can be able to understand what you are talking about. So the board will approve it, and then after approving that, you ensure that your members are aware of what is happening. The management can be able to run with the program, not to be kept secret by the top management. Only the management knows what is happening with the gender equality. And one of my lectures was saying that there's no way that you can come up with a program and expect it to run. Even the cleaner must understand exactly what you are saying. Even your gardener must understand the program, because those are the people who will be able to speak the same language. Not when we are talking about gender equality or gender mainstreaming and nobody knows what you are saying. So I've given that summary on the summary of the processes of the safeguarding. Now, the challenges that we are facing with regards to the safeguarding of all in sport, the non-compliance. I think most of the presenters have touched it. Non-compliance, people want to run sport as a recreation. They don't want, we run offices where we are hired, but when we get to sport, it's a normal business where nobody wants to follow the procedures. So non-compliance with policies and rules, no one wants to take the responsibility. You remember the Rio issue where it was not me, it was the athlete, it was not the athlete, it was the coach, so nobody knew exactly what was happening. And then again, when issues are raised of safeguarding with regard to gender equality or gender mainstreaming, there's a disbelief of accusations. People don't want to hear. If Malebu is the one who comes with an issue of reporting the issue, it's Malebu reporting, so I will not listen. So the athletes are complaining around the region that when they come with the issues, either by gender issue, the safeguarding issue, the anti-doping issue, we put a blind eye to what they are saying. We don't want to listen to them. So by disbelieving, we are killing the sport development, we are killing the vision that we are trying to share with you. National embarrassment, to acknowledge the fact, some of us, issues are coming, but because that issue is touching something that can bring a black eye to the country, we hide the issues and trying to protect the name of somebody. And just because that person is in a certain position, now we protect each other. But we always say, as we go around the world and around the continent and around our own region, to say, the more you hide it, the more it's brewing. Because one day it will explode. And when it explodes, we will not be able to save anyone. National embarrassment, to acknowledge the facts, I've covered it. Expense of sending a team home, discipline on gender-based violence in sport, age cheating, match fixing, bribery, and drugs. So when we, drug abuse, when we go around, when we do the hosting of the games and safeguarding of the games, we are saying, if Angola is hosting the games and somebody breached the code of conduct, don't be scared to send that whole team back home. I know we did that in Tlokwe, in Potchefstroom in 1999, if I'm not wrong, where there was a team that the athletes were drinking in the athletes' village and what. And that team, the basketball team, if I remember, was sent back home. so that people must know that you come to my country, you follow the rules. And there's no way that I'm going to compromise the integrity of sport because I'm now scared that if I minus one country, the bilateral agreements and what, there's no time for that now because of the safeguarding issues. We are talking about the development of young people who are tomorrow going to be the leaders of our nation. So, oops, I went the wrong way. I wanted to now bring you to the gender mainstreaming. Why? What is the gender mainstreaming? Gender mainstreaming, it's important to bring it up because it does not only aim to avoid the creation or reinforcement of inequality, which can have a diverse effect on both women and men. It also implies analyzing the existing situation with the purpose of identifying inequalities and then also developing policies which aim to redress these inequalities and undo the mechanisms that cause them. So we need to be sure and understand, and our staff understand the reason behind the gender mainstreaming. Why is it important? We are saying it is important because as much as addressing gender inequality in the society through policies, as it is about organizing own way of working, addressing the issues of representation within institutions, also involve addressing the gender dimension of organizational structures and the working procedures. So our staff, our volunteers, and everyone around an athlete needs to understand the reason why we are talking about the gender. It is also misinterpreted. It's also misinterpreted in the sense that the institutional, why we are targeting the institutional support and also the engagement. Your approach to a gender responsive evaluation should align with national policies and guidelines. We have realized that when we are doing the policies and what, we do the policies as individual entities. We are not aligning our policies into national policies. Somebody will be doing the safeguarding policy and forgetting everything about other policies that are within the jurisdiction of your own country. I am proud with the South African processes that have, or I will say the achievements so far, the Zimbabwean one, the Zambian one, because when we started with I remember it was in 2019 when SASCOC invited us to do the safeguarding or to present on safeguarding. Immediately after that presentation, the meeting was called while we were going for lunch, and they picked people who were South Africans within that conference, and they formed an interim committee. And guess what? That interim committee is what they were presenting now, the results of that formation, because that was a scare moment, because in that conference we had somebody who was presenting, giving a life story of what happened to them. And then we also came up with different presentations that were showcasing that there's a problem with the gender equality in sport, there's a problem with safeguarding issues in sport. So we need that initiative, we need that support from all of you to be able to make sure that your countries align to the safeguarding issue. Now you heard how they are using the safeguarding policy. If you don't have the safeguarding policy, you don't get the funding, or you are not part of the SASCOC. The Zimbabweans have done, they've presented it as a bill, and then Zambia has got a commission and everything that is going to run the safeguarding issue. So we want to have different countries also giving that presentation to showcase the implementation of what we are presenting. Why are we focusing on institutional thing? Because in accordance with this policy, implementing gender mainstream are manifold. So there are intrinsic and extrinsic motivation for promoting that gender. So our staff need to understand the gender impact. They need to understand why we are talking about the policies. Because some of them, as we were going around, they were telling us that it's like we are pushing these policies because they affect us as the leaders. Somebody will be pushing the gender policy because they have some interest in it, and not even making the staff understand or making the volunteers understand, making the athletes understand why it's important that we work together towards the same goal. So as you will be reading in the presentation, you will be able to see what we are trying to share with you. I'm trying to jump on the allocation of resources. I think most of the two presentations they have talked about it. The gender audit, we advise that maybe if things don't go right, try to do the gender audit and see how the disadvantage and advantages of having that organizational one. And also make sure that however the criteria to decide who is to conduct the analysis, are we choosing the right people? As we go around, we hear that we choose our own people. We choose the people who we can control. We choose the people into committees who don't have the background. Somebody mentioned it, I think. We choose the people just to add into the system. We have provinces in Angola, and instead of picking the right people, you pick the people that you believe they are right because they serve you. We pick the people because the next election we want those people to elect us back into position. We pick people because we want to have trips, because this is my girlfriend, my boyfriend, then I'll be traveling with them as we go along. So those things need to stop, and we are talking about them. We have to have women and men who can voice them out. Safeguarding is very dangerous. I was telling the safeguarding officers in Zambia from the Zone 6, Anoka Zone 6, who were gathered there, to say you have to take the leap of faith to be in there, because it is so dangerous that when you reveal the truth, other people it can endanger your life. But one or the other, we need people who will take that oath to say we have to deal with the gender issues. We have to deal with the safeguarding issues, so that to protect our athletes, to protect our sport integrity, to ensure that as we go around, people are free to serve the sport. People are free to be able to want to belong to sport. Sport is no longer safe, and safe in the sense that overnight, sport results can turn the country overnight. We have seen just one medal, everything. My sister is laughing there because it was like we have won I don't know how to put it, but everybody just go crazy. Even the uncles that you have never seen in your life, you will see them next to the athletes, the aunts, and everyone want to associate with that glory. That's how dangerous the life of an athlete can be. So the other one comes with that pride of glory. The other one comes with a negative energy to bring them down, so that they don't proceed. So as we are around athletes, let's guard them with everything that we have. There's no sleeping now in being part of these organizations or being part of the system. All of us want to be in the system. All of us want to be seen as being associated with the good, but there are many ways in which an organization can promote a better work-life balance and its personnel. This includes flexible working hours. Let's try to do, as I was saying, I was talking about the welfare of all. We need to have an equal share of care and care among women and men in both as a prerequisite of gender equality and an equality objective on its own right. And then we talked about the cultural aspect. We can never leave the cultural aspect of our development behind. And we are talking about the human rights. We have just started being part of the human rights issues in sport. And one thing that I want to share with you is that the ill health in the society always affects sport. And sport is not immune to the ill health in the society. So whatever affects the society, just know that it might be worse when we come and evaluate the sports sector on those same issues. We are having trouble with the GBV in sport. We have seen it what just happened in Uganda. And those are the things that are happening, but they are hidden. It's not that they are not there. They are hidden because nobody is saying. But as you are in the leadership, tomorrow you'll wake up and then it will be on your face. How prepared are we to make sure that we have covered all those? Justine said something earlier on, when we were talking about organizations and choosing who, and on who are we choosing to represent us. If we choose Justine to represent us, are we choosing Justine because it's Justine, or are we choosing Justine because she has the ability and the quality to bring in the system, to change the system? And also, when you come into these organizational meetings and forums, have you consulted with your organizations? Are you talking on your behalf? Are you, whatever you are saying, does it represent the organization at home? Or you just wanted to come because you had to come to Angola or from your province to the city? So we need to also make sure that when we go out and represent, let's represent well. Like somebody was saying, let's just not be a woman representing, let it be a woman who will bring and come and bring change. Because by that, we are not degrading the intellectuals or the intellect of that woman. We are also showing that the women can also be able to do that. And there's something also that what Lwandi said on making sure that you tap into different resources. I think I've mentioned it. And then there's another enemy that is the media. If the media is here, I'm not saying you are enemies, I'm saying the way of interpreting on issues. The safeguarding issues are sensitive in the sense that something comes out. When you have those safeguarding officers, the reason why we have that training in the IOC is because we want you to be certified. It's an oath that you need to take. We want you to be certified. We want you to understand the issue. We want you to ensure that when you represent the country well. Because we don't want when a child, a volunteer, an administrator comes to you to report a matter on gender issue as a gender chairperson or as a gender or safeguarding person. And then within a second, some media person already know about that issue. One athlete from the survivals said, it's like you are killing me twice. Somebody has stabbed me, and then you also come in and you stab me. because there's a time to disclose that. That's why we go around with the psychologists, with the team, to say when we are here, as I present, I might trigger something that you are going through that you have not told anybody. We have to have a safeguarding person who can be able to quickly organize a psychologist to be able to. I broke down when I was giving the presentation last year in London. Somebody was presenting before me, and that person triggered the pain that was in me. And I just broke down, and it took me more than an hour for them to bring me back. So we are, the mental health of all of us is important as we go around and be able to share and be able to discuss the issues. And on that note, I always say a leader is the one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And say thank you, obrigada.
Malebo Raditladi, muito obrigado pela brilhante apresentação. Pedir também ao nosso muito eficiente secretariado a recomendação das nossas senhoras da MUD, da Comissão Mulher e o Desporto. Gostaríamos de ficar com todo o material que foi aqui apresentado e discutido. Vamos tratar das traduções corretas, porque temos aqui representantes de 17 províncias do nosso país que terão muito interesse em pegar nas vossas apresentações para usar como matéria de discussão, de estudo, para aprimorarem também os seus conhecimentos e, com toda certeza, numa próxima ocasião, o desafio vai ser as nossas senhoras do interior do país também virem para esses eventos com apresentações desse género. Muito obrigado pelas vossas apresentações. Continuando o nosso programa, vamos falar agora um bocado da mobilização de recursos para o marketing e integração. Portanto, tivemos que fazer aqui um ajuste que a Jo explicou no início, saltou-se um tema e agora voltamos novamente para o tema que estava previsto para logo a seguir o lanche. Convidamos assim a senhora Nozipo Jafta. Miss Nozito, thank you so much. You have the floor.
Please, everybody to stand. Everybody stand, everybody stand, 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 stand. Translation, stand. How many of you don't like mosquitoes? Mosquitoes. Okay, so I want us to, there's a mosquito in this room. We need to kill it. Okay? So, when I do this, you kill the mosquito. When I do this, kill the mosquito. When I do that, you kill the mosquito. That, you must follow your body. Okay? Mosquito is here. It's over here. It's down here. It's down here. It's up here. It's in front. It's here.
Hello, hello? Is it fine? Hi. Hi, everyone. Sorry. Oh, is that me? So I don't know whether it's a good or a bad.
Mais uma vez, saudações de muito boa tarde a todos teleinternautas da TV Belas. Continuando aqui na cobertura do Fórum de Igualdade do Género, um evento que está a ser realizado pelo Acnoa, Associação dos Comitês Nacionais Olímpicos Africanos, em parceria com o COA, Comitê Olímpico Angolano. Nós vamos entrar agora para o último tema do dia. Este evento serão 2 dias, começou hoje, arrancou hoje e termina amanhã. Nós vamos para o último tema, que vai falar exatamente com o tema como podem as comissões da igualdade do género maximizar e alavancar oportunidades de género. Este tema terá 2 preletores. A primeira será a senhora que já está a fazer a comunicação, que é a senhora Nozipo Zapita, e depois também teremos o senhor Pedro, que também será o segundo preletor. Nós vamos convidar os nossos internautas a continuarem ligados a esta cobertura que está a acontecer numa das unidades hoteleiras da cidade de Luanda.
Hopefully there will not be questions. Okay. Oh. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Hey, madam. Okay, how do I do this? Okay, so my presentation is going to be very quick. I am going to be focusing on a lot of marketing, and obviously because we've just come back from the Olympics, there's a lot of focus on the Olympics and how we marketed and leveraged on the Olympic brand. Okay, I don't know what to do. So as I said, it's important that when we go and talk to our partners, we tell them who we are. What I'm covering here is the role or the mandate of SASCOC. And I know here, as we're sitting here, some of us are NOCs, some of you are SOCs and NSCs. It's important that when you go to a partner, you give them what your mandate is. The difference between us and you and everyone else is that we are one body that looks after the Olympics, Paralympics, Commonwealth Games. So we don't have the complications that some of you have because we are just one body. We deliver Team South Africa to those multi-coded games. Hey. Okay, I must slow down. Middle. What's the direction? Okay, so one of the things that we did, we formulated a marketing strategy where we had to define.
Going forward.
Okay, guys, I need this. I'm only given 10 minutes. I've already done 5. So what we have done as part of this journey, we came up with a marketing not a marketing strategy, a a strategic plan, an organizational strategic plan, where we've defined our vision, our mission, and our critical strategy pillars, and which is what I'm going to focus on. So as part of building this brand and building this organization, making sure that we are able to engage with our sponsors, that is very important to our sponsors. For us, it was very important to put brand and reputation management as a strategic pillar. It's a strategic pillar because at some point we had lost brand trust. We had lost, when people just feel like you are in the news for the wrong reasons. We had that problem at some point. So to us, it was important that before we go and meet the sponsors, we had to make sure that our brand is in the right place. Don't focus too much on the key initiatives because they will differ from country to country. And then we had to focus on our human capital, which is our people. There is no way you're going to deliver your strategy if your people are not happy. So it was very important for us that we attract, develop, and retain the right talent. Corporate governance, I think the VP touched on that earlier on, but some of the things that she touched on was, we've reviewed and adopted a new policy, constitution, including our bylaws. We are busy, we're in the process of reviewing all our policies. We've just had our financial policy now being approved by the board. We're busy with our HR policy. It is part of strengthening our governance and our governance space. And one of the questions that we were asked when we were having the negotiations with our big sponsor, it was actually revolving around governance, because they wanted to know, are your internal controls in order? How strong are they? Because if a company gives you money, they need to know that it will do what you said it will do, and you will be able to report on that. So to us, this was very important that we have it sorted out. And then we've got our financial sustainability. It's a critical pillar. There's no way we're going to survive without money. And I think for us, and I think for some reason I took it out because I thought I had to present on women, but there's an over-reliance on government, and government has got other priorities. So we had decided that, yes, government, we want you to support us, but we're going to go out and find money, which is why there's a sponsor in our space. We actually have a hit list of the companies that we're going to be chasing now to help us in the next year. It's a hit list that we're going to be chasing to help us, because we now have a full quadrennial to work on that. And what the VP was saying earlier on, as part of our budgeting process, is that we've got different commissions. And because they are in the Constitution, there's no way that I will not have money for our Constitution. I think for our commissions, I think for this year we had about 4.3 million just put aside to support all our different commissions. No, not about those red ones. The other critical area that we have defined, it's the stakeholder relations. We needed to rebuild our stakeholder trust and confidence. If your stakeholders, I don't know who your stakeholders are, if they don't have confidence in you, it's a problem. High performance forms part of our mandate. We said that we're not just going to be delivering Team South Africa, we are advocacy for sports transformation and lead. We want to lead a sports movement. When you go into communities and they talk about a leading organization leading the sports movement, they should be talking about us as well. Our previous minister used to say that there's a lot of negativity in the country, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of grief, and we should be using sport as a vehicle for social cohesion and to build the communities. That was just a bit of background on us. But when we go to sponsors, we tell our story. And it's always good to tell your story in pictures. These pictures will be updated because we just come back now from the Olympics. But these are our stories, these are our medalists. It moves from 1992 when we won there. You can see this is how we tell the story to our sponsors. These are our medalists because of the Team SA that we delivered to the different sporting codes. And then what is our call? What are we saying to them? We invite you to be part of a story that all South Africans will embrace, which is why for Paris, our hashtag was #ForMyCountry, because we wanted to appeal to the South Africans. We wanted them to be behind Team South Africa and appeal to their emotions. We want you to be a part of building national pride as the brand behind Team South Africa. So all our marketing and our messaging revolved around just do it for your country, do it for your athletes, do it for your country. So that's how we positioned the campaign for this period. Just to take you through some of our marketing initiatives. So from a marketing point of view, we said we want to become the authority in sport in South Africa while building a cohesive and engaging journey towards Paris 2024 and beyond. And really what we wanted to achieve here was that through our marketing and communication, when somebody is looking for anything related to sports, especially when they're looking at Team South Africa or our athletes, they should go to our platforms. If you want to know anything about Akani Simbine, don't look around, just go to the SASCOC website, go to our athletes, press Akani, and you will see the history of Akani. You know, if you want to know about how did Chad perform in Chad, wherever he was performing, you should be able to come here and be able to see how our athletes are performing and the journey of SASCOC as an organization. The way we've defined our space, we believe that we are looking after two brands. The SASCOC as a brand, which is the organization, all the things that VP was talking about earlier on, about how we are running the organization as SASCOC, our governance structures, our, anything that is SASCOC related, it forms part. Our messaging is that top part. And then when we talk about our athletes, which is a content that is driven by which is led by our athletes, that is where we talk about Team South Africa. So we've segmented our messaging so that you don't confuse the market, So that's how we have, and you'll see that, we try our best. If you look at the SASCOC space, your right-hand side on the commercialization, there's a plan to now talk to our federations and workshop them about sponsorships and branding, because we believe that it's important, about governance, about all those things. They form part of the role that we play in their lives. We've just had a sponsors forum where we brought all our sponsors together to talk about what we do as an organization. And then you've got your athletes. We have now, where is that? It's fine. But that's what we do. It's easy. You can just read it, because otherwise I'm going to go into too much detail if I try to explain it. So this is another exciting slide that we put together. So in our space, we've defined or segmented our messaging. So our media engagement, we know that there's owned media. The owned media, that's what you'll see. If you look at us on the social media platforms, we own the website, we own our Facebook, we own our Twitter account, Instagram. This is what we own, and we use this. We don't have to pay for it. And then on your right-hand side, you've got your paid media. That's when we go to our media houses and say we want to buy advertising for so much money. That is where that one comes in. But here, it's the end media. This is more your PR side of thing, where as we are sitting here, if we could have some media waiting for us outside, for us to talk about why is it important that we talk about gender issues. You're not going to pay for it, but it's got that feel-good factor. It's a PR exercise. It's not something that you can buy. So all our events, so we would invite SuperSport, all our media agencies, we will invite them to all our events, and they cover that. We don't have to pay for that. So when you have a kit launch, your kit supplier is Mr. Price. It's a beautiful story. It's a South African brand. There's a story behind Mr. Price. Then you get coverage out of that. So depending on what you do and the impact it has on the society, you get to find it on the end media side. I tried to explain how we've done it, just to give you an idea of how our stories are told. So the touch points, you see that it's those three elements. But at the top, what was our objective? We wanted to inspire the athletes going to Paris. It was important for us, but also win the hearts and minds of South Africans to show their support for Team South Africa. So all these things that we did here, this is really just a summary of some of the things that we had done, but just to showcase how they form or how they get expression in the different media spaces. So, but you will get this presentation anyway. Can I continue? And then there's a slide that we use Our intention here, it's not ours, this is not our model, but our intention is to create a plan that involves putting athletes at the center of our content, to drive engagement with our audiences, and to provide value for our sponsors. And let me show you how this thing has been put together on our side, using the sponsors that we get, that we have, our top partners from the IOC, but also our own partners, where you say that Coca-Cola, I'm giving you an opportunity, or Coca-Cola is already running. Remember the campaign, Coca-Cola engaging with the fans. So Coca-Cola, you're already selling Coca-Cola, that platform, you know? So this to us is very critical. Deloitte is already driving the digital space. Deloitte is this is too complicated. I'm over 50. Deloitte is already driving the digital platform of IOC. So why don't you bring them closer to you so that they can support you from on your digital space? You know, so we work very closely with the IOC partners just to make sure that, you know, there's alignment. So, but this is how the whole storytelling approach works. You really link an activity to a partner, so that when you go to a partner, you don't go there and be generic. You go to them and you say, we want you to play in this space. The price, would you please get our kids? With our new sponsor, Bidvest, they were more interested in excellence, because as an organization, they are saying that they are an excellent organization. They invest in their people. I mean, Bidvest brought about 80 employees to Paris just to come and experience the Olympics. But for them, it's about excellence. It's about giving that experience to their employees as much as they're giving an experience to our athletes. So it was very critical for us to sell that to Bidvest. So they bought the rights to the Operation Excellence, which is our flagship program. And I'm not going to talk about that today. So this is how our storytelling that we've stolen from that other company. And this is how our partners have leveraged. So when we go to partners, you need to demonstrate to them that there's a lot of value that you're going to give to them. And some of them become very creative. So Bidvest was very creative as a partner. They launched a campaign, One Nation, One Team. Bidvest proudly supports Team SA. There were billboards on the highways on that. They had about 100 trucks that were branded Bidvest supports South Africans. And then at some point, they bought, you know, those walls in the townships. So they would go to Gomorrah. Gomorrah is in Alexandra. They would say, Gomorrah supports Team SA, proudly brought to you by Bidvest. So they were very creative in how they leveraged the relationship with Team South Africa. Jabulani, you know, Jabulani in Soweto. Jabulani supports. So they took this whole sponsorship into the communities, because they also wanted, you know, it's a global company that has got very strong roots within South Africa. So that's how Bidvest leveraged theirs. And then you've got Mr. Price Sport. Look at our team there. Taking your sponsor to the games, and you find all athletes wearing your Mr. Mexit, the brand is Mexit branded items. That was at the team launch. That was at the kit launch. We had SAPC covering the kit launch. Mr. Price got more than they had bargained for as a partner. So when you go to another sponsor, when we go to another sponsor and we tell the story of other partners before us, it is easier because you've got a story to tell and you can share exactly how you've leveraged. So this is just some of the things that we've looked at. Okay, beyond Paris, sorry, this is really just us. We've got all these other games that we have to deliver up until 2028. You can see how tight our calendar is. But we also use these games to expose our athletes to the global stage. Because at the end of the day, it is about how they performed, you know? So we just have this to remind us of the mandate that we have. And we share this with our partners or sponsors, because they need to know if you come on board, you will get exposure on these games. And for them, that is very important. Conclusion. So I just thought, maybe let's just share what worked for SASCOP. It's because we've developed a very clear strategic plan with pillars, objectives, and deliverables. It's easy to go to a sponsor and say, this is our plan, this is what we want to achieve, and this is how we want to achieve it. they would like to see that. We continue to build relationships with potential funders and partners. As I said, we have a hit list for 2028. It does not start when we go and present the proposal. We play golf with them. We play golf and we just plant the seed. We could take them out for a drink. Ask VP, we took another lady from Microsoft, said, come and let's go and have a drink. We could have just presented our proposal in that session. Now she's the one who's chasing us. We saw her the other day, she's like, I'm still waiting, you don't want my money. You know, it started with the drinks in a very informal environment. And then we're saying here we've created a compelling narrative and visual brand identity, as you've seen in my presentation. And we also have a messaging map. You know, what we find is that if you don't have that messaging map, you know, somebody will bump into me in Cape Town and ask me a question, and I say one thing. Bump into BP and ask the same question, she says something else. President Berry says something else. It's important that our messaging is aligned, because what we communicate to the world, it stays there. You know, people will remember, hi man, that's not what you told me yesterday. You guys are lying, then your credibility is questioned. We utilize social media and online platforms effectively with clear messages. So we've developed a content management strategy. We don't just post for the sake of posting. And if you know what we do every Monday, just to share with you before I sit down, every first Monday of the month, we sit down with our digital agency or social media agency. We decide what is going to be the message for the next 4 weeks. And we stick to that. If we have to deviate, we do a little bit, but we know what is the message for that week. So we use social media very, very, very effectively and strategically. And we also know what our people want to see. You know, they don't really care about other things. And you'll see that during the games, everything goes like this, because people want to see how are we performing and all those other things. We monitor and evaluate the impact of our programs and share this with our current. So I'll share that with you. It became quite a big document, how we performed as a region in Paris. We actually received something from ANOC. Yeah, so it just says ANOCA, this is how you, and then it breaks it down per country to say this is how you guys, or this is how everyone has performed. And then we have a very good relationship with our government, with our continental and international affiliates. To us, that is very important, because when we go and present, we need to show our sponsors that we have a relationship locally, but you know, this organization also has, because if you want to attract MTN who's got a presence in Zambia and in what, that's attractive to them to know that you are also present in those other areas. And then we love what we do, and we do what we love, and we're just passionate about our work.
At this stage, any question? Okay, as long as you know she's the money girl, and you can please still consult with her.
Uma vez mais, obrigado pela excelente apresentação. Estamos praticamente no final da jornada de hoje. Alguns de vocês devem estar a questionar, nós vencemos a hora do coffee break, porque também acho que almoçamos um bocado tarde, estamos todos bem, então decidimos em conjunto fazer a sessão contínua. Depois então paramos para um pequeno coffee break e mais logo o nosso jantar. Agora, o presidente Gustavo deixou-me uma pequena recomendação. Queria pedir às nossas amigas que estão a suportar a Azel e a Joana para hoje, no final do dia, com a nossa Comissão Mulher e o Desporto e as nossas amigas da MUD, ver se conseguimos olhar para a jornada de amanhã, a ver se conseguimos criar aqui um pequeno espaço, a hora do almoço, 1 hora antes ou 1 hora depois, porque achamos ser injusto ter convidados de 10 países diferentes. Queríamos encontrar aqui um pequeno espaço para fazer um pequeno tour pela cidade de Luanda. Achamos ser injusto vocês voltarem para os vossos países sem conhecerem 3 ou 4 pontos emblemáticos da nossa cidade de Luanda. Por isso, vou deixar a responsabilidade com as nossas colegas, a Hazel Kennedy e a John, para ver se fizemos um ajuste ao programa de amanhã, para podermos fazer então um pequeno tour à cidade de Luanda, para que levem uma imagem da nossa cidade antes de regressarem para os vossos países. Bom, agora mesmo para terminar, a nossa representante no CIO, a senhora Maloang Moiloa, quer fazer um pequeno comentário sobre o tema que apresentamos hoje de manhã, o segundo tema, que foi o comentário, a apresentação de todos os países da nossa zona. Portanto, todos fizeram uma brilhante apresentação e então a nossa representante no CIO quer fazer um pequeno comentário sobre o tema. Miss Maloang Moyola, you have the floor, please. You speak over there.
Thank you for that kind pronunciation of my name. Mr. SG, I don't think I see any but one mosquito. But what I realized is that there's been a lot of use of the phone. Now you're going to need it even more, because what I'm going to do is just present statistics. So you're going to add for me, so you have to be alerted. When I say President Foloko, you must give me the answer. Good afternoon. I'm just going to share with you how your contributions build to the end result during the Games and to the Olympic movement and to the organization that you subscribe to or that you uphold the... Okay. So I think this slide just explains what Madame Hazel explained earlier, the development of our gender equality plan that was guided by the objectives of the IOC. And from that, as a zone, one of the first zones that developed their own action plan from the ANOCA Gender Equality Action Plan. And I think, as we said, we are all pieces of the big and final puzzle of the International Olympic Committee. And here are the 5 pillars that the Olympic Committee Gender Equality and Inclusion Commission aligned themselves with when they developed their objectives. Participation, which I think we saw at the Paris 2024 Games. We saw the participation of athletes coming at 50-50 representation. Leadership, and I think here we have to also check, are we doing well in this? Let me just take you back in history. In 1996, the IOC recommended for the first time representation of women in the executive board of the IOC. And the recommendation was for 5%. And later on, it was increased to about 10%. And that was in 2005. And we are in 2024. In 2020, there was a recommendation to reach 30%. And this is where we are still at. And you can see that we are not making much progress in terms of increasing the numbers if we are still at 30% minimum in 2024. Let's see what the next quadrennial brings us with the next, maybe, new leadership in the IOC. So a lot has been said about safe sport, and there's also an element, I think, that Nozi touched on portrayal, that we really need to look at if we really want to come to the last part of resource allocation and resource mobilization. How do we present our female athletes, for example, the imagery that has been presented so that we can be able to sell our athletes? And this, again, is how now the IOC relates with these 5 pillars. We know that we all contribute to building a better world through Olympism and sport, because we subscribe to the same principle, or that major principle of Olympism. And IOC, in relation to these 5 pillars, looks at the organization in terms of the IOC as an organization. What are we doing as an organization? What are we doing as the owner of the games, which is what we saw in Paris 2024, the games being used as a platform to increase or to accelerate gender equality. What are we doing as IOC in terms of leadership? In our leadership, what examples are we setting as a leader? So here we see IOC as a role model in leadership. When the current president took leadership, if you look at the dates, that was 2013, that was Dr. Thomas Bach coming in as the IOC president. And these are the changes that have occurred during his tenure of office. The IOC executive board members increased from 27% to 47%. I think Mr. Foloko is looking at that, at the statistics, and he's adding. I can see he's doing his math. IOC members increased, female members increased from 21% to 43%. And I must say, most of the current African IOC members, female, benefited from the increase in the IOC membership during the leadership of Dr. Thomas Bach. IOC commission chairs. How many commissions in your own NOCs are chaired by women? And I can guess that it's mostly would be only the Gender Equality Commission that is being chaired by a lady. But we need to go to a point where we have 50% representation of commission chairs in our NOCs and in our national federations. And the IOC commission positions as well. What I think is the position currently in terms of 50% is in the IOC commission positions. Now, let's quickly go to the achievements at the Olympic Games, the Paris 2024 Games. And I think you will recall that there was a lot of talk about what is happening in Paris in terms of women visibility. Some of the venues were named after some of their female heroes. And the flag bearers at these games, you remember that we had 2 flag bearers, 1 female, 1 male. And I think the highlight is at the corner there where we had our female marathon run on the last day of the games and the medal ceremony being done at the closing ceremony by the president, Dr. Thomas Bach. And this used to be the case for the main marathon. And then at the village, there was like a safe home for female athletes who had their young babies where they could be taken care of. And also you had a safe place, I think, Malebu, And I think that one I did not explore. Then we look at the statistics of now, where we are lacking, where the gaps are. We can see that if we look at the journey from Rio to Tokyo to Paris, the percentage of the technical officials, I think if I'm right, let me just check on my presentation because it's not clear on that one. From Rio to Tokyo, the percentage of technical officials was 19 in Rio, 32 in Tokyo, and it only grew 5% in Paris 2024, and it's at 37%. Now, I think when we talk about the pipelines and the pathways, these are other areas that we really need to explore and create opportunities for our women to go through. And also in coaching, look at the coaching. There hasn't been much headway being made from Rio to Paris. If we were at 11% in Rio and we are now standing at 13%, there's still a lot of ground to cover. And we come to team management. I think the numbers talk for themselves. We are looking at Paris and we're looking at Tokyo. And I think you'll see that the real and the main gap is still with coaches. And I think as a zone, we need to have maybe a strategy, as in how do we take advantage of that opportunity for coaches and international technical officials. It's also evident with our media coverage and also the issue of portrayal. There has been talk that we need more of women in these areas, photography, journalists, and broadcasters, because then it gives it an opportunity for women to be portrayed in a more positive manner if we have women behind cameras and behind the storytelling. And now this just goes on to show how we are doing as a continent in terms of women on the NOC's executive board. I was talking to our president at lunchtime, and I was saying that when you look at Africa, maybe in the next slide here, it's clearer because it tells you that then we have a total of 54 NOCs in Africa. And if 22 of these NOCs in Africa, we are comparing ourselves with other continents now. If 22 of our NOCs are the only ones that have been able to go beyond, at or beyond 30%, and we as a zone are 10 NOCs, and most of the NOCs that have reached that target are in our zone, it means that we as a zone are doing much for our continent. So now this is percentage of women on NOC executive boards, country by country. I think this we will share because this will give you where we are at, but I quickly want to hurry to this point. I think it was mentioned by I think it was Rwandili, where we were talking about how are we able to get women elected in positions if they are not at the General Assemblies. So it means that there's a lot that we need to do in our provinces, in our national federations, in our clubs, to make sure that the representation at the General Assemblies is increased. Otherwise, we will still be at the mark for quite some time. So that's by country. Now this talks to us. Now this is by zone. You know that our region in Anoka is divided in 7 zones. And this is now showing the percentage of women on NOC executive boards region by region. When we spoke this morning, we indicated that we are aware that as a zone we are leading in terms of representation of women on leadership positions. And it's clear there that as a zone, Zone 6, we are doing well. And we would like this to be sustainable. We want to maintain this position, Mr. President, as we said. And therefore, we need, at the end of this forum, to say how we are going to maintain this position going into the next quadrennium now. So these are some of the things that I think Madam Hazel mentioned that we have done, not only in our zones, but also as the Anoka Gender Equality Commission. And there's nothing that speaks more than pictures. So here is just an album to show you how we are standing when we go to meetings, when we go to forums, who's there, who's not there, how do we increase the numbers. And where you see many ladies being represented, then it means we are at the Gender Equality Forum. But the others, we still have to. Here was the Athletes Commission, and what the Anoka Athlete Commission did was to say that when you come to the forum, one delegate should be female, one delegate should be a male. And that is what we had hoped for this forum, to say that we would really looking at having our Gender Equality Commission chairs as well as our male sponsors, as Kagisho put it. So this is just to show you where we are at, where the gaps are, and tomorrow when we think of where we want to go, then we know exactly where we stand. So this is it. I just wanted to know if the picture that we took this morning is there, then you'll see a very good. Maybe if it's not ready yet, then we'll show it tomorrow. Thank you.
Está então terminado o primeiro dia de trabalhos. No mesmo local está ali servido um pequeno coffee break e depois, principalmente as delegações estrangeiras e as nossas delegadas, aproximem-se do nosso pessoal para coordenarem a hora de partida para o jantar. Obrigado pela vossa presença. Vemo-nos amanhã a partir das 9 horas. Acho que a John quer... You want to make some information? You want?
So we know it's here, it's something else.
Senhoras, as delegações estrangeiras e as nossas delegadas, junto das nossas meninas das nossas comissões, vão então coordenar a hora de partida para o jantar. Por agora, temos ali o coffee break da tarde, temos mais alguns minutos para interagir e depois então partimos para o jantar, a hora a indicar pelas senhoras ali da nossa comissão. Obrigado a todos pela vossa presença. Até amanhã às 9 horas. Yes, John? Só um minuto, acho que a John quer passar mais uma informação.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Angolan NOC has got a T-shirt for each one of us. So those T-shirts will also be given out now, which we would like you to put on to wear tomorrow. And tomorrow, please be a little bit more comfortable. We're Faku here, and I don't think Faku will allow us to sit in his session the way we got seated today. So let's be comfortable tomorrow, but just put on something so that I don't say come without any clothing. Please put on something. No, please put on your T-shirt. Thank you so much.
Obrigado, John. Penso que todo mundo entendeu a mensagem. Bom apetite então para o nosso coffee break e até amanhã às 9 horas.
Cobertura do Fórum de Igualdade do Género, uma atividade que está a ser realizada pela Acnoa, que é a Associação dos Comitês Nacionais Olímpicos Africanos, em parceria com o COA, Comitê Olímpico Angolano. Hoje foi o primeiro dia e chegamos à reta final. Amanhã vamos voltar para a transmissão, para a cobertura deste fórum, que tem a participação de 10 países da África Austral e também convidados nacionais que vieram de algumas províncias de Angola. Para já, nós vamos colocar um ponto final a essa transmissão e agradecemos a presença de todos. Para já, muito boa noite e muito obrigado.